Have you been asked to create the journal entries for a transaction in which a bad debt expense that had previously been written off gets paid and you have to reinstate it? Well, and maybe you're not sure how to do it. Well, you've come to the right place because I'm Professor Capko, and in this video, I'm going to show you just how easy it is to do that. But first, I want to say I believe something wonderful is going to happen for you very soon. So be on the lookout for it. And now back to the video. In our example here, we are reinstating a account. It's an account receivable that had been previously written off as a bad debt. Now, if you're not sure how to write off a bad debt in the journal entries required, I did a previous video on that, and I've linked it up here. You may want to start with that video just to see how we arrive at this point. So I'm going to presume that we have previously written off this bad debt, and now we have to reinstate it. So let's see what this one is asking us to do. The company has previously written off an account receivable owed by a customer, ABC Inc., when it appeared it would never be paid. The amount written off was $500. Much to the company's surprise, ABC Inc. paid the amount in full. Make the journal entries required to reflect the reinstatement and satisfaction of ABC Inc. account receivable. Okay, so we have previously written off this $500. It was owed to us, but it appeared it would never be paid. So we wrote it off using the allowance method. And then now, to our surprise, we get a check in the mail for the $500 paying off the account. So we need to take care of the journal entries required to reinstate that account and then pay it off. It is actually a two-step process. Step one will be to reverse the entry in which the bad debt was written off. And then the second entry will be where we actually pay off the bad debt or show that the debt is, which is now good, is actually paid off. I'm going to demonstrate this first using some T accounts. I think those are the easiest way to look at this transaction, and this will help us clarify the transactions that are involved. These are very helpful, and if you would like some T accounts like this for yourself, I've got a link down in the description that you can use to order your own. You can download it to your computer and print out as many as you need. So take a look at that. All right, so where we're at in this case is we had previously written off a bad debt using the allowance for doubtful accounts method. So we're going to presume that there's some amount still in the allowance for doubtful accounts. I just picked 17,000. That amount has nothing to do in particular to this problem. It's just an example of an amount sitting in an allowance for doubtful accounts. We ordinarily would expect it to be a credit balance because the allowance for doubtful accounts is a contra asset account. What do I mean by contra asset account? Contra asset accounts offset the value of asset accounts. So here we've got an allowance for doubtful accounts of $17,000. That would offset the accounts receivable for all our customers. So we would have accounts receivable for all our customers, and we may break it down to individual accounts such as this for each customer, or we may just have them in one aggregate account. Regardless, accounts receivable is an asset account and would ordinarily have a debit balance. And if you are having a credit balance in your allowance for doubtful accounts, that offsets the amount in the accounts receivable, which gives us more of a book value. In other words, what's the actual value, because we've allowed for how much we might be writing off in bad accounts. We know that a certain amount will not pay, and we go ahead and account for that by using an allowance for doubtful accounts. And again, if you're not sure how that works, I've got a video that I linked up here that goes into more description on that. All right, so now we're going to do the first thing is we need to reinstate this account. We received the $500, but before we can show that in the cash account, we need to reactivate or reinstate the account receivable. So this customer owed $500. You for that thumbs up. That really helps the channel, and we're trying to grow it here and help as many students as possible. So as I stated, we're going to reinstate this account by putting $500 back into a debit balance for the account receivable for this particular customer. But we have to have an offsetting credit, an equal and opposite credit. So we're going to credit the allowance for doubtful accounts in this case, because we're putting it back in, because if you watch the prior video, when we wrote it off, we took it out of the allowance for doubtful accounts. So if we were to look here, we now have a credit balance of $17,500 in the allowance for doubtful accounts. So let's do that first part of the transaction. I'm going to do it in a general journal, and in that you would put in the date, whatever the date in particular is, and we always start with debits. Our debit is to the account receivable for ABC Inc. So I'm going to slide this up so we can see both at the same time, and I'm going to debit, and we always have that on the left-hand side here, the account receivable, and this is for ABC Inc. So that is the account that we're going to debit, and we're going to debit it for the $500. Now our offsetting credit, as we see using the T account, is the allowance for doubtful accounts. We always indent our credits. Let me slide this up a little bit more so you can see it better, and hopefully it'll stay in focus. This is the allowance for doubtful accounts. So our allowance for doubtful accounts is going to be credited for $500. And this reinstates ABC Inc.'s accounts receivable. I'm just going to abbreviate that as AR, as accounts receivable. So we just do a little brief description here stating that we are reinstating the account. Now, the next step is we need to account for receiving the actual cash. So as we see that we received $500 cash, so I'm going to look at the cash account, and it's a asset account, so I'm going to debit it $500. And what account are we going to credit? We have to have a credit. Well, we're going to credit the actual account receivable for ABC Inc. because that is the account that's getting paid off. We're crediting it $500. So this account, because these offset, this account goes back to zero. They no longer owe us any money, and that $500 is added to our cash account, whatever amount it is that we have in there. So let's now do the journal entry for this. I'm going to slide this up here, and I'm going to leave some space, and we would put the date, and likely it would be the same date because we're handling the same transaction. And in this case, our first debit, we always start with the debits. The debit is to cash for $500. So I'm going to write in cash, $500. And what account did we credit? Well, we credited the accounts receivable for ABC Inc. So we're going to, over here we debited it. Now we're immediately going to credit it. And again, we indent that. This is account ABC Inc. And that's going to be for the $500. And again, our debits and credits are in balance. They we know that we have to have the same amount in the debit column as in the credit column, and we do here. So here we're going to say ABC Inc. paid off balance in account receivable. I'm going to just abbreviate it again. So that is how we reinstate and pay off a bad debt expense that had previously been written off. That's all I have for you today. If you found this helpful, you may want to consider becoming a supporter of this channel. And there's many ways to do that. Down in the description down below, there's several things that you can do to support this channel. But one way that would really help would be becoming a member. If you click the join button, which is next to the subscription button, you can join at various levels. And some of those levels include having live sessions with me where we can go over things. And also, members can request videos directly from me that would take priority. So if you have a particular problem you need worked out, if you are a member, I will do my best to get that video done as soon as possible for you. So consider a membership. So also, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell so you never miss a video. Thank you.